bum, 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 bum. Bum 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 8 a.m. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. It's 8 a.m. It's time for the show that you deserve. If you can hear me, say something. If you can hear me, say something. Mr. Chirag Patil asks, are we on for 8 a.m.? Yes. Hello, Mr. Patil. Yes, we are on. Mr. Kulkarni says, good morning. Audio is fine. Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Kulkarni. You're strictly business. I like it. Yeah, so if you can hear me on YouTube, Mr. Patil, you could just let me know. And then we'll begin the show that you deserve. You deserve it. I'm sure you deserve it. I am sure you deserve it. Bum bum bum. Mr. Rajakumar, yes, we can hear you. So nice to see you. So nice to see you. It's been a while, right? Where have you been? I hope everything is good. And now I am audible on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And then we'll begin. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We are having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We are working so hard, doing such good work for our friends, ourselves, our parents, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Things got a whole lot better, ladies and gentlemen. Call it divine intervention. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we start our day. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, you gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition? The tradition of the simultaneous sip. Tradition of the simultaneous sip. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup, a mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. Today I'm having water with some black pepper on it. It's supposed to be good for me. So, here we go. Oh my God. Extraordinary. Let's do it again. Beautiful. Highlight of the day, dopamine hit of dopamine hits. The simultaneous sip says something. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You remember? You remember it. You remember it. It says that you're not alone. It says that we are in this together. And that's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. Mr. Chirag Patil asked, day before yesterday, you said we could talk about Jet Airways. Can we take it up today if we get time? Oh, sure, sir. Sure, Mr. Patil. we could definitely talk about Jet Airways, since airline industry is going through a very difficult time. Day before yesterday, good memory. But before we talk about day before yesterday, I'd like to talk about yesterday. So if you remember, on yesterday's broadcast, I had mentioned that Israel could attack Iran anytime soon. If you remember, those quote unquote words were Israel could attack Iran anytime soon. And just as we stopped yesterday's broadcast, I got a message from one of our viewers saying, "Hey man, Israel attacked Iran. Crazy day." So, right after we said it, it happened. To viewers of Thinkers Frequency, I'd just like to clarify that Israel and Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, or Bibi, they do not take my views or my suggestions before attacking countries. So I did not talk to Bibi or talk Bibi into attacking Iran. Okay? It wasn't me. It wasn't me. But to think of it, if I would have talked to Bibi, what would I have said? Would I have said, "Bibi, don't go for it. Don't do it, Bibi. Don't do it"? Or would I have said, "Bibi, after you're done with Iran, why don't you talk, why don't you take a look at a country called Pakistan, who's threatening you, who's threatening that it'll wipe you off from the face of this world because it already has nuclear weapons. What do you think about that?" What would I have said to Bibi? Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But I was talking about this. I was talking to a friend. I was talking to my friend. And I said, "Hey, I just called it on the broadcast." And then right after we got over, it happened. And she said to me, "Then, well, if you have such a foresight on things, why don't you cash it?" Well, that was part question, part taunt. I don't know. She's a deep well-wisher, of course, best friend. So she said, "There should be a way to cash it." And I was like, "How do I cash it? What do you want me to do? You want me to trade off the futures of Iran? Taught me to trade the crude." Uh, but Mr. Chirag Patil said, "You are cashing it on the defense stocks." And you're right, Mr. Patil, the defense stocks were up. The indices were down 0.7%, but defense stocks were up. HL was up 1.5%, BEL was up, MDL was up. I guess Paris Defense was up. So, does that count? Does that count as foresight leading to cash? I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, maybe there could be something which could be even more profitable, right? So if you know something is happening, why don't you cash it? That was a good question from her. And when I said defense stocks, she was like, not impressed, but okay. Good. But the question is, how can you see something happening, right? How do you see things happening? Well, Vivek Ramaswamy put it very well. Vivek Ramaswamy said, "Show me the incentives and I'll predict the future down to the right timeline." And he's very, very famous for predicting the future. I mean, his predictions are spot on, and he shows he judges the incentives and he knows what's going to happen, which is uncanny. It's brilliant, right? I'd like to go a step further. Maybe basically just validating what he says or what he hasn't said primarily. That events are not events. Events are a part of a greater story. Most people don't follow the story. Most people just look at events because they don't trace how that event began and how that thing came to be. That's why all those events in isolation don't make sense. No, but to anybody, right? So forget about predicting, you can't even understand it. And when you look at the story, so we discussed it yesterday, what we talked about was that Iran getting a nuclear weapon is the end of the world, essentially, or end of the Western world, because Iran has categorically mentioned unambiguously that death to America, death to Israel, right? And it could be a power that actually has nuclear weapons. So if it gets nuclear weapons, that would be the end of Israel. It won't be able to defend itself anymore, right? And they obviously can't have that. So they were bound to attack Iran. And the question is, what happens now? Now that we've talked about whatever has happened, you know, uh, that sounds smart talking about whatever has happened. Let's think about what's going to happen now, okay? Because experts are not experts of what was, but what will be. So if we are thinking aloud, let's think about what's going to happen. Now, Israel has said that it's not going to stop until this threat is neutralized. That means nuclear disarmament of Iran, right? Iran is not ready for nuclear disarmament. At least the current supreme leader says that we won't give up the nuclear weapons. They are core to Iran's being, essentially. Now, what happens if Iran doesn't surrender nuclear weapons? It doesn't come to a deal. What do you think will happen? Do you think Israel will kill the supreme leader? Will eliminate the supreme leader? If it eliminates the supreme leader, he will get replaced by another radical supreme leader, right? So Israel won't benefit. What Israel would be looking forward to would be a revolution inside the country to topple the government. Because that's what Mr. Netanyahu said in his speech, that hey, Israel, people of Iran should know that our fight is not against you. Our fight is against the tyranny of the people that have been oppressing you. So maybe what you might just be looking at is Israel actually trying to stir up an internal conflict to wipe out the incumbent leadership of Iran. So that's what's gonna happen. What could happen, right? That out of the way, uh, crude oil surged a little, 8%, and that could pinch India because India is primarily a crude oil importing company, one of the largest importers of crude. 40% of India's crude comes from Russia right now. So India is very well distributed, diversified as far as supply of crude is considered. However, if this conflict, you know, what's that word? Conflagrates. If it leads to conflagration, India could feel some sort of pressure, which could lead to some inflationary pressure and growth pressures and consumption pressures. Speaking of inflationary growth oriented pressures, gold is up. So, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know by now, on this 20th episode, why gold gets up and when it gets up, right? When it relaxes, when it gets up. Gold is the perfect indicator of global social unrest, or political unrest, or material unrest. So gold is naturally up, and with gold getting so high, or going up, what has happened is the gemstones business is going up, the colored gemstones. So people would be interested in knowing what has happened to the diamond industry. You know what has happened to the diamond industry? So diamond industry has suffered a major shock. People are not buying the real diamonds anymore because of something called fake diamonds, right? So these fake diamonds, or American diamonds, or lab originated diamonds, are taking away the sheen from the natural diamonds, because the technology has evolved that it's very hard to make out which one is real and which one is not, right? It's become extremely hard even for the experts to find out which diamond. So diamond is down, and with that whole destruction of value perception, destruction in perception of value of diamonds going down. China has already witnessed a slowdown in diamond consumption, real diamond consumption. US as well. India as a market is still holding on to diamond consumption right now. So the cracks haven't entered Indian market so solidly. However, what you're looking at is the colored gemstone business going up, right? So something goes up, something goes down. It all makes sense if you know the story. So that is something interesting. Speaking of something interesting and a story, recently wrote a piece on Lenskart's valuation, right? How a $10 billion valuation of Lenskart is totally unjustified. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know that I discussed this very deeply, and only after I discussed it with viewers, I wrote a piece on the whole valuation play of Lenskart. So Lenskart is trying to IPO at a $10 billion valuation. Right now, its revenues are 5,200 something. So a 10 billion valuation, that means 85,000 crore valuation. You're looking at something like a 15x multiple, right? But that was FY24. So in FY25, Lenskart could be doing something like a 7,000 crore revenue, right? So even if Lenskart was doing 7,000 crore revenues, a valuation of 85,000 crores would be essentially some 12-13x multiple, right? And I said, let's talk about it doing revenues of even 8,500 crores. Let's say that in FY25 it does 8,500 crore revenues, not 7,000, which is what's going to happen, but 8,500. Now, even in that case, Lenskart's valuation would be like $10 billion. That's a multiple of 10. So what I did was I did a research where I read about companies which are comparables of Lenskart. So there's SLR, Luxottica, which is a Western company, huge, $25 billion group by revenues, makes $4 billion, two and a half, $4 billion in profits. Great, huge enterprise, has brands like Ray-Ban, Oakley, produces stuff for Chanel, Prada, is a wholesaler, has an eye lens business which is extremely profitable in the eyewear market. What are its multiples? And it's also growing, 6% though, but growing. So its multiple is like 5x, right? Then I looked at Warby Parker, which is the exact startup comparable of Lenskart. So Warby Parker or Warby Parker or Warby Parker, I don't know, is the company which essentially inspired Lenskart. So Warby Parker in Canada, US, Lenskart in India. That's how companies begin, right? Uber, Ola, Flipkart. So Warby Parker essentially was the company which is a very direct comparable of Lenskart. So, and Warby Parker's scale is also very, very comparable to Lenskart. It's almost the same. Warby Parker's revenue figures are slightly higher. Lenskart is doing like 670 million. It's doing 750 million or something like that. So very similar scale. Just like Lenskart, Warby Parker also had a slightly negative FY24, but in Q1 FY25 it made some money, right? And it's also growing 15%, 10 to 15%, and so on. So what is Warby Parker's revenue multiple? 3.3x, right? And then finally you look at Tata Titan I Plus, which is a subsidiary of Titan, which is a very big group, right? Which is also like Titan you cannot compare with Lenskart because it has a jewelry business, it has a lot of other businesses. However, even if you take a look at that business, which is growing like 30% year on year, with net profits of $500 million, like $500 million, 4,000 crores, as almost as much as Lenskart's previous year revenue. They're growing 30%. They have revenues of, I don't remember, 50,000 crores. Huge revenues, right? What are they trading at? 5x. So how on earth is Lenskart looking at a valuation of $10 billion, giving it a revenue multiple of 12 or maybe 10, optimistically, like as optimistic as it can be, a revenue multiple of 10 uh, is absurd. So some apparently Fidelity adjusts its Lenskart's valuation to 6.1 billion. So Fidelity agrees apparently. It's a 21% markup from $5 billion valuation at which Fidelity got its shares. So Fidelity was a part of the secondary share sale transaction which happened for Lenskart. Uh, so you know they got the shares and they've marked them up. So basically, Fidelity agrees, right? But is it gonna keep marking it up to $10 billion? I don't know. Would that make sense? What if Lenskart debuts at $10 billion? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna be Hindenburg. I am gonna take a look at Lenskart. It's gonna IPO. There's gonna be a 20% pop from the IPO price. Whatever price it IPOs at, there's gonna be some 10, 12, 15, 20% pop, and that's gonna stay for like a couple of days at max, maybe the first day. At that moment, I'm gonna place a short, and I'm gonna have a long-term short on Lenskart till it comes down to like 7 billion or so. So 30% decline. That's what I could do. Not saying I would do, but that's what I could do. Would I do that? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Speaking of things that people don't know, Chinese phones are going the Make in India route. So China's exports are getting looked at with a lot of negativity by the world, by America, by everybody. So what these Chinese companies are doing is they're ramping up their manufacturing in India and then exporting these phones to outside. Right? Core components still come from China, but still assembly happens in India. Some manufacturing happens in India. So what these people are doing is they're claiming to manufacture in India and then they're exporting it. This is going to lead to even higher smartphone manufacturing numbers for India. So in 2017, India began the smartphone manufacturing play. We were zero, and right now we are at, how much are we at right now? $24 billion. It is $24 billion. That's huge, right? Out of which Apple is $17 billion. So Indian smartphone manufacturing is really killing it, really making us money. The country is made. This is an example of a masterful policy making, investments in this. It's probably one of the best exports of India. $24 billion. India's total exports right now stand at 1 trillion. Okay. So 1 trillion, 24% is 2.4% of the entire trade exports of this country. And it's just been less than 10 years, right? So that means something. Speaking of things that mean something, Apple has written a research paper recently. How many of you have read Apple's research paper? Anybody has read Apple's research paper on AI? So Apple stock is down. Let me check Apple stock. Yeah, it's down. 3.9 past 5 days, 7% month on month, 20% six months, 20% year to date, 8% in a year. So Apple stock is down. But Apple recently wrote a research paper about AI models. So apparently what Apple said is that AI models of today are just pattern recognition machines and they don't really do any thinking. That's what they claim. That AI machine learning tools of today don't really do any thinking. They basically are just pattern recognition machines. Did anybody read that? Now, that said, so they said that they don't think like humans and that's not real thinking. And so people were asking like, okay, then do you do something better? To which they didn't have any answer. But the question is, if you're talking philosophically, pattern recognition is not the right way to think. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know that I have been telling about how thinking in analogies is an absolutely shitty way to think, right? A lot of people, when trying to argue with you, or when trying to debate with you, if not argue, or when trying to just talk with you and explain you things, they talk about analogies. Oh, वैसा हुआ था उसमें, ऐसा हुआ फिर इसमें, उसमें भी ये हुआ था, उसमें भी ये. The point is, that's not a way to think. As Elon Musk says, think in first principles. Like inertia, right? Things move. If something is moving, it'll keep moving, unless and until it is opposed by a force like friction, right? First principles. What is supposed to happen logically, conceptually? That's the right way to think. Uh, and Apple is absolutely right when it comes to that. It's correct. However, how many people actually engage in first principles thinking? How many people actually engage in first principles thinking? You know, do you see anybody actually making an argument basis first principles? No. People think in analogies. People, while it might not be the best way of thinking, or best way of talking, or best way of having a debate or an argument or anything, people still engage with a lot of analogy thinking, analogy based thinking. They give some lame ass analogy and they expect it to fit. It never does, because every situation is different and the nuances of one analogy might not work in this play, but still people do that. And LLMs are essentially doing that. They are pattern recognition machine. They are not thinking on first principles. They are analyzing a lot of patterns and retrofitting that. So, since 99% of humans don't do that thinking, would it be fair for Apple to say that LLMs are not really thinking? What do you think about it philosophically? Right? Yes, agreed that it's not the best way to think. Sure. But since humans don't think in the best way to think, does it make the way of thinking of the LLMs bad or less human? Because that's what humans are doing, right? It's a very good question. So I recently was reading a book recommended by Peter Thiel. It's called Things Hidden Since the Foundation of the World. So Things Hidden Since the Foundation of the World is a book written by a philosopher called Gerard. And he says the philosophy of mimetic theory. He says that human beings are just essentially copying somebody else, in different ways, in thought, in being, in appearance, in every way. They're copying somebody else. And even if somebody thinks that they're thinking originally, they are still copying somebody else. So, and when Peter Thiel read this book, Mr. Peter Thiel, lot of respect. He's almost somebody I, look up to. He said, as we read Gerard and this book, we realized that we knew about the world. We knew something about the world that others didn't, which is a solid thing to say, right? It's badass. That we realized we knew about the world. We knew something about the world that others didn't. Nice. Awesome. So, considering humans themselves don't engage in first principles thinking, do you think Apple is right? Even if they are conceptually right, does it make sense for them to actually say that? Especially since they do not have an alternative approach looking at things, right? Andhra Pradesh is revving up a 82,000 crore river link plan. So essentially, Andhra Pradesh is looking at Polavaram Banakacharya link project. Okay, so it's an 82,000 crore project, and look at what has happened with this project. It's amazing. Timeline. The Andhra Pradesh government prepared its mandatory pre-feasibility report for the project this month. This is June. Okay, and submitted its proposal to EAC by June 5. EAC is Expert Appraisal Committee. Okay, So June, by they completed that pre-feasibility report by June, and they submitted the proposal to EAC by June 5. It was accepted on June 9. Okay, and now tops the government agenda for the next meeting scheduled on June 17. The state has indicated that it hopes to commence the construction by March 26 and complete all works by May 2029. So June, by the end of June, by beginning of June they completed the report. By June 5 they submitted the proposal. By June 9 it was accepted. So if you look at the timeline, if you look at the calendar, June 5 was Thursday and June 9 was Monday. So they submitted the proposal on Thursday, got approved on Monday, and then June 9, and now it's the top of the agenda on June 17. June 17 is Tuesday. Oh my god. So this is like policy making or moving forward at the speed of light, which is amazing, right? Which is amazing. But a lot of protests are going to happen because Andhra Pradesh, erstwhile, let's say, so basically Andhra Pradesh and Telangana were one, right? So they are saying that it's going to cause problems. But essentially what the project wants to do is diverting the flood waters for irrigation. So let's see how fast it can go. But this is amazing. If governance happens like this, that you send a proposal on Thursday and gets approved on Tuesday, and then it gets discussed on Tuesday, top of the agenda, and then get approved, that's just amazing stuff. Amazing. Indian stocks feel the pain. VIX, the volatility index, rose up by 7%. Hardly any, hardly anything. Indigo goes for a crash course in surge in insurance costs. So after the unfortunate accident of the Boeing, the Air India flight, Indigo is looking at a serious insurance renewal cost. So it's quite interesting how insurance plays out in this role. So a lot of people don't know how insurance business works. Insurance is not a very profitable business if you look at the net, right? But still, Mr. Warren Buffett loves insurance. He's built his entire fortune on GIC, essentially, right? General Insurance Company. Why he loves insurance is that there's a lot of float. Float is the money that is in your account, which is not your money, but it is still in your account, right? There's a lot of money that you collect in premiums, but you only pay if things go bad, right? Until the time things go bad, you have a lot of that money in your account, which can be invested, which can earn interest and then comes back and then you can pay. So it's not a great business. Net margins wise, it's very difficult. Everything is very difficult, but somehow it has a lot of float. But moments like these are very difficult for the insurance industry because what happens then, right? Indigo has a total insurance cover of around $20 billion for its 437 aircraft with an annual premium of $15 million. That's hardly any premium, by the way. Rupee falls sharply but recovers. That's okay. That's key. That just happens. RBI cancels green bond auction, not wanting to yield. So we discussed a lot of bond buybacks by RBI, right? So RBI cancels green bond auction. Does it ring a bell for the viewers of Thinkers Frequency? Why do you think it cancelled the green bond auction? We discussed this. If you've been following carefully, you would know why this has happened, right? Are most of Indian domestic planes Boeing? Asks Mr. Ishan Kulkarni. No, Mr. Kulkarni. Actually not. A lot of them are Airbus planes. So Indigo operates primarily an Airbus fleet, which is A320, which is a big, so Indigo began in a very strategic way. Why Indigo was profitable and has maintained a much better financial outlook than any airline in the history of this country is because it ran with a uniform fleet, just one model of planes, right? One model of planes was expensive in the beginning. However, it led to lowering of the training cost, lowering of the operations cost, lowering of, there was a lot of interoperability. A pilot which can fly this plane cannot fly that plane. That went out of the window. So a lot of good things happen. So no, it's not just Boeing. There's a lot of Airbus planes, and which other planes does Indian airlines run? So planes, India commercial uh, airlines use. Okay, so there's Airbus and there's Boeing. Yeah, so these are the two. A320, as I told you. So I was factually correct. I was just checking. I didn't want to say something factually incorrect. Appreciate how you explained this, uh, says Miss Anushka Shrivastava. Thank you so much. Thank you, Miss. Really nice of you. So, looking at more appreciation, which is always appreciated. Uh, Quality push. States are getting SOPs for data system reboot. So again, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know that India has been really ramping up the data collection. Why? Why? India has been railing up the data collection because it wants to improve how the measurement of economic activity is actually done, right? The GDP, the consumption, the savings, everything, right? So India, the central government is actually drafting a common standard operating process, SOP, for the state government. So the central government is still a little advanced as far as this data connection is considered, but state governments are still running on very archaic, uh, you know, methods, and also which are basically outdated and might just be uh, obsolete and also incorrect. So we discussed a lot about these things. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember. We talked about how poverty, below poverty line, was measured earlier. You guys might remember. If you don't, I would explain, but only if you write it in comments. And then we also talked about the whole consumption research by Kantar and why it is not the best research I have seen in a long time. Then we also talked about how this electricity measurement, the consumption of electricity was getting changed, right? What was getting updated to a new standard. So something like this is happening. MOSPI, which is Ministry of Statistics, Planning and Implementation, MOSPI, yeah, is crafting that standard data collection spiel. So Nirmala Sitharaman, Madam Sitharaman, set to review tax reforms collections next week. Key agendas are discuss collection trends, both GST registration strive, trends in tax evasion, progress on draft, safe harbor, international taxation, and so on. So that's no surprise. This keeps happening. This is no news. Exporters' logistics cost may go up, jump 20%. Of course. And not just exporters' logistics cost, a lot of problems are happening as far as the air traffic is considered, because the freight costs by sea, by air, they are facing a lot of disruptions. And if this conflict blows over a little, it could lead to serious problems as far as the whole, logistics market is considered, which could lead to a problem in the export place considered, which could lead to some problems as far as India's growth aspects are considered. Everything is connected, right? And of course, crude price goes up. So as talking about the airspace troubles, Western Asian countries close airspace, airlines forced to cancel flights. Not surprising at all. Not surprising at all. By the way, Mr. Donald Trump, Team Trump actually talked about this possibility of Iran getting attacked. You know how? So Donald Trump had essentially given Iran 60 days. It said that we have an offer for a deal limited to 60 days. And you know what happened on the 61st day? Israel attacked Iran. So that's pretty interesting, right? How people are actually keeping their word in the international forum. Speaking of keeping their words, big tech companies are looking at acqui-hiring. So you remember we talked about Facebook putting in like $15 billion in scale AI, and so on and so forth. A lot of companies investing a lot of money. So big tech is actually looking at acquisitions as a strategy to ramp up its AI play, because foundational AI doesn't have a lot of talent, and that's a big problem for big tech. So while they are actually firing a lot of people, Google is actually firing a lot of people, and Microsoft is firing people. They're actually looking at hiring people with AI, foundational AI skill sets, which is which says something about how tech skills aren't really transferable. So I was having a debate with this guy, and he said something extremely lame. Extremely lame. So what he said was, under Steve Ballmer, the biggest problem with Microsoft was that it had a firing strategy contained to their own team. So they were having a percentile based firing for teams verticals. So every team, even if they're doing well, they were competing against themselves. So clarifying, let's say Microsoft has Microsoft Office as a team, and then Microsoft has Bing as a team. Okay, so Microsoft Office is doing great business, Bing is doing good but not as much. Okay, so what Microsoft used to do was, it had PIP programs running for the teams, not for the whole company in general, but for teams. So even if Excel is doing great, even if Microsoft Office is doing great business, X percentage of people of Microsoft or Excel are gonna get fired because they're not doing that. Now, as a business unit, Excel is doing better than Bing, but yet it's gonna get firings, while Bing also gets firings. Why? Instead of what should happen in this guy's mind, who's an NYU guy and stuff, is that Microsoft should not fire Excel's guys at all. It should only lead to downsizing in Bing. So to which I said that how do you counter the bloat in different teams? You've got to fire people in verticals because that's how they work, right? So let's say a team is like 3,000 people strong and that unit is doing well. Do you suggest that you should not fire people from this team? You should only fire people from the team which is not doing well? Wouldn't it lead to bloat on this side of the team, which is doing well as a unit business? He said, but the skills are transferable. So this guy is not a techie, he's a lawyer, but that was how poor the argument was. That was how lame, how stupid, how idiotic, how moronic, people studying at like NYU, MBA, top college, law in Delhi, and working with good companies sound like. So, well, that doesn't work out because skills aren't transferable. Somebody working at a video tool cannot be working with, let's say, AI, or if not AI, with audio, right? Somebody working at Microsoft Excel as a techie might not just be the best person for Microsoft Outlook, or let's say video, Skype or whatever is Teams. Yeah. So specificity of talent is not always transferable. You cannot just because they are techies doesn't mean they know every bit of tech, and they cannot be trained on it as well. So that's the problem. Uh, Moving on, I think that's it for the day. The last piece of news I would share is that alcohol, Bloomberg has come out with a report saying alcohol is looking at a permanent decline. Consumption of alcohol is looking at a permanent decline. Now, this shouldn't come as a surprise, even though Bloomberg just wrote this last night. It shouldn't come as a surprise to the viewers of Thinkers Frequency, right? Because we discussed the decline of alcohol consumption and why actually it's declining. You remember why we discussed on why alcohol consumption is declining. You people remember it? Well, I hope you do, because that was a very interesting discussion. That these people, a research company in India, yes, Rise in Weed, says Mr. Chirag Patil. So nice of you. You remember Rise in Weed, absolutely. Or in US case, Rise in Fentanyl, or people getting older, and people getting older, correct? But what if the new people that are coming up, you know, so India just went down the fertility rate, right? India decreased its fertility from 2.1, which is the necessary fertility rate for replacement of people, to 1.9, which means India's population will start declining from here on, right? Now, what if the new people that are coming in this world are only Islamic or mostly Islamic? What would that mean for alcohol consumption? What do you think about that? Did you think about that? I didn't think about that until today. I was thinking, okay, uh, weed decline, perfect. Uh, Health focused people, no, that's not right. People getting older, sure. New people less, sure. Western world seeing a decline, sure. But what if the new people who are coming in, they are Muslims, and we know that most of most of the fertility which is coming on, the highest fertility rates right now are coming from the Islamic part of the world, right? So, uh, what if it's a religious thing? Mr. Patil says, "Oh my God, nice insight." Yes, that's what I was thinking, right? The new people are coming is are like religiously against alcohol. You know, that just blows my mind. Not exactly convinced by the tech transferable skills argument, but perhaps can discuss separately. Thanks for bringing up. Says Mr. Tushar Roy. Sir, you've got to appreciate it though. I mean, why are you not convinced? Do you think a techie can be trained on tools just like that? It's a switch that can happen. Well, there are tech specialties which take years and decades to develop, and they cannot be transferred. So a person working on Teams might not be able to shift to some other product line uh, as quickly as you expect him to, or it won't even be productive. So tech transferability and the lack of it is actually should actually convince you, in my opinion. So that said, it's Christians who have highest fertility. Not true, Mr. Patil. Not true. Not true. Not true right now. Christians and Christian nations are actually facing a serious drought of people. So they are not reproducing as much. You know, also Christianity as a whole is not being able to hold up. You know, so that you might like to check again. But yeah, so with that, insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis, the 20th episode of Thinkers Frequency comes to an end. I had a great time. 20th episode. It was nice. It was nice talking to you. Talking to Mr. Raju Kumar, Chirag Patil, Mr. Patil, thank you, Mr. Tushar Roy, Miss Anushka Srivastava, Mr. Ishan Kulkarni, all of you. Great talking to you all. I hope you had a nice time, and see you again tomorrow. Bye. Thanks for your time, says Mr. Pokharna. Thank you, sir.